Hi, I'm Danielle. We're here with Jay and Lori Bergman at their beautiful home tonight for an open house for the Red Cross. Jay, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, the American Red Cross is forming a new chapter. It's going to be headquartered in Joliet. Actually, it's going to take in over 1 million people and be a fairly good-sized chapter. And in order for the Red Cross to find out just what's necessary in the Joliet area, they're going to have an open house here. And Lori and I are glad to host it. I'm on the regional board of the American Red Cross, that being the American Red Cross of Chicago and Northern Illinois. And it's really exciting. Joliet, to have their own facility, will eventually have up to 7 people, full-time people working here. And it'll be a full Red Cross facility. And you know, in Joliet, we've had our share of problems, tornadoes and such, same thing, Coal City, flooding in Kankakee. The Red Cross will be able to deal with that a lot better with a facility right here.
All right. Lori, do you have anything to say or anything you can add to that?
Just that the Red Cross is such a necessary organization, and I know people saw that this summer with the Coal City disaster, and they're right there at when the disaster happens to, give people relief. But they are also there every day when there's a house fire, and they're there to, help people find some place to stay while their house is being, until they can find permanent lodging. But it's just a very necessary organization. We're so glad to be able to help where we can.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people feel safe now in our community with that, for sure. Yeah. Well, we thank you guys, and this is wonderful being able to come to your home. I'm definitely interested in hearing what's been said tonight.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Hi, we're here with Fran. She is the CEO and Region Director of Northern Illinois and Indiana. Fran, can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing here tonight at the Open House for American Red Cross?
Well, we're really excited to be talking about the new chapter that we have formed for the American Red Cross that's going to support the 6-county region that is in and around Will County in order to improve our services and build stronger relationships in the community.
Fran, can you please tell us why you chose to set up in Joliet in particular?
Well, Joliet is a very heavily populated area. It's the largest community in the 6-county area that we've selected for the new chapter. In the whole new chapter, there are about 1.1 million people, which is a pretty big area. And this area has had, unfortunately, too many disasters, between tornadoes and floods. When I think about Joliet and Utica, there were some very unfortunate tornadoes that happened then, the Plainfield tornado, and so we think it's really important to put our stake in the ground, put more resources into this community, and build stronger relationships. And we're just so grateful for this opportunity.
Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about where some of your funding is coming from for the American Red Cross for this building in particular?
Yeah, the American Red Cross, well, we haven't figured out much about the building yet. We're just starting to talk about it. But the American Red Cross is funded by the generosity of the American public. And we're not a government agency, we're a nonprofit, and we are very grateful for the people who support us.
That's wonderful. All right, Fran, we thank you very much for giving us all that information. We'd like to thank Jay and Lori. And anything else you'd like to say?
No,
right,
thank you for...
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, on behalf of myself and my wife Lori, who's around here somewhere, I'd like to welcome everyone here to the town hall meeting for the American Red Cross of, we're calling it currently of the southwest suburbs, but we need a new name, and that's one of the topics we're going to talk about a little later this evening. We have a lot of distinguished people here, and I know in many places they introduce everybody as that's distinguished. Well, the Red Cross doesn't discriminate, so everybody here is distinguished. So we're not going to introduce those folks. I would like to just very quickly thank 3 people for coming. Ward Ambrose, Channel 6, Steve Brandy from WJOL, and Bob Ocon from the Herald News. We appreciate their attendance and their willingness to help us spread the word. I'll give you just a little bit of an agenda of what we're going to do tonight. We're looking at maybe 45 minutes. That's just guessing, so we're probably looking at maybe being done by 7:45, more or less. We're still going to have some food out there, and you're welcome to stick around when we're done. But I'll be giving you a little background as far as what the Red Cross is doing here and where we're at on things. And I'll introduce Fran Edwards, who's the CEO and Executive Director of the region, the American Red Cross of Chicago and Northern Illinois. She'll then introduce Ken Cozy, who is going to be the Executive Director of this new chapter. And he'll talk a little bit about what's going to happen in the chapter. Then we'll ask for input. This is a town hall meeting. We'll ask for input on ideas for locations for chapter headquarters, comments of needed services. We do have some folks here from the different first responders organizations. Any expectations that business, government, hospitals have of the Red Cross, and community partnerships that we might be able to establish. Basically, what is being done is the Red Cross established a program several years ago called One Red Cross. One Red Cross basically was to try to, I guess you might say, make the Red Cross run more efficiently. You know, the more efficiently the Red Cross runs, the less money they have to spend on overhead, and the more money they can spend on programs. And right now, the Red Cross, for every dollar that's contributed, spends 8 cents on overhead, and 92 cents goes directly to the programs. That's pretty good. If we could do a little better, so much the better. This new, and with the One Red Cross, there's several things that were done. They combined purchasing. There were a lot of chapters that had individual bank accounts that had to be audited every year. So they combined that so we can save money in accounting, and a number of other things that were done. But also one thing that's being done is they are optimizing the chapter structure. And, you know, there are some areas in the country, not necessarily right here, but where you may have one town and you have a chapter, Red Cross chapter, and an executive director and the overhead involving that. And then 10 miles away you have another town with another executive director, another chapter, and the overhead involving that. So this is what they're trying to do is basically make the Red Cross more efficient so they can do a better job of delivering their services. What we're doing here in this new chapter, and this new chapter entails 6 counties right here. I think Fran will probably tell you a little bit more about it in a minute. So 1.1 million people are going to be within the boundaries of the new chapter. There's a new board from all that we're looking at, representatives from all 6 counties that's being formed. So far, we've got some folks from Will County that I've recruited. By the way, I'm a member of the regional board. I'm a member of the board, the American Red Cross of Greater Chicago, of Chicago and Northern Illinois, and that's why I'm helping out in putting together this new chapter board. But anyway, thus far, people, and some of them are here tonight. Some people that I've recruited that will be on the board, or that are on the board, is, and this is in alphabetical order. Debbie Blocker, who's the Kendall County Community Leader. Brother James Gaffney, who I think most of us know is President Lewis. Brent Hassert, who's here tonight, a former legislator. Arvid Johnson, who's not here tonight, but he's president of USF. Kathleen Ryan, who's the new president of St. Joe's Hospital here in Joliet and St. Mary's in Kankakee. Jim Rolfe, who everybody knows, who's regional president of First Midwest Bank, and Tricia Simpson of Exxon. So we've got a good board so far, and we still need some folks from Grundy County, LaSalle County, and Kankakee counties. So if you know anyone that fits the profile of the directors that we have, please let me know, or you can let Ken Cozy know, and he'll pass it on to me. And Ken, I think we've got some handouts that people are going to have when they leave that have your contact information on there. Okay, so in any event, that's where we are, and I'd like now to introduce Fran Edwardson, the CEO and head of the Chicago and Northern Illinois Regional Red Cross.
Thanks, Jay, and thank you to Lori. Where's Lori? There's Lori back there, too. Thanks to both of you for hosting us this evening, and Jay, I really want to express my deep gratitude to you for all your work and helping give birth to this new chapter that we've created here. I think it's really, really important. I think some of you may have been here a few years ago when we were talking about moving the office from Romeoville to Joliet, and the economic downturn got in our way of doing that. But when we were able to revisit it, and as Jay was talking about, we were changing the structure. One of the things that we had the opportunity to do was actually not just change an office, but actually to open a whole new chapter. And so for the most part, Jay was talking about this restructuring was causing us to make chapters bigger and spread over bigger areas. Here, we had Will County, Will, Kendall, Grundy, were all part of the Greater Chicago chapter up here. And one of the things we said, Kankakee had its own chapter, and LaSalle and Putman had been in central Illinois before. But when we looked at this, we said, you know what, we've got a real opportunity here. And the opportunity is we've got 1.1 million people in this geography, and we actually want to put more services into this community. And the best way to do this and to get the most people in is to actually create a new chapter, appoint an executive director, bring in, we've got Richard Hazel over there, who is our new disaster program manager in the Red Cross shirt. So we've got now dedicated staffing for this geography, currently in our Romeoville office, but to move to Joliet. And we are just thrilled to be able to offer this in the community, and so grateful to the board, that the people who've stepped up to serve on the board as well and to make this happen. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking to you because I want to have Ken Cozy, the executive director, really talk about the vision for the chapter. But I did want to just talk a little bit about the importance of our work and what this really means. And what I wanted to do was to tell you the story of one of our volunteers who lives in Streeter. She couldn't be here tonight, but her name is Joyce. And Joyce has been a volunteer for about 5 years. She is a military veteran, and she is primarily a disaster volunteer, but she also is one of the volunteers that helps with our Red Cross Club at Illinois Valley Community College, and they do things like blood drives. And she also, as a veteran, has helped out with some of our services to the Armed Forces programs. Joyce, in her 5 years, has responded to about 50 home fires, because that's the single biggest disaster we do in this region, 3 to 4 home fires a night. And Joy has done about 50 fires over the 5 years. Where we go, we help the family who's just burned out of their home with food and with money for food and clothing and shelter and things like that. So one day about a month ago, Joy was out during the day with her daughter and grandkids, and they were enjoying the day before she was on call for the Red Cross. So they had their fun. She came home. She got a call from our dispatch office about a fire in Streeter. She heard the address. It was her daughter's home. So she went and she responded. Her daughter, and she has 2 grandkids, Trevor and Riley are their names. They're like 10 and 13 years old. They were all out on the sidewalk. They were okay. Everybody was okay. They were cold, but they were okay. And one of the things her daughter Sarah said is, we were really lucky that we were awake because the batteries in our smoke alarm were dead. And so Joyce was able to tend to the needs of her family and respond, and everyone is okay. But one of the things that the Red Cross also does is we have a home fire prevention campaign. And our commitment, one of the things that's very unfortunate is there's a very high correlation to not having working smoke detectors and fire fatalities. So what Joyce is doing now is she's taking that program to Streeter, and next weekend Joy is leading an effort to install smoke alarms in homes that don't have them in Streeter. Their goal next Saturday is to install, what did you say, Ken, 400? About 400 smoke alarms in homes in Streeter. So it's a wonderful way to give back. And we are so grateful for the work of people like Joyce, because the workers of the Red Cross are our volunteers. And I would ask each of you, if you haven't checked your smoke alarms lately, please go home tonight and check your batteries. Thank you. Oh, Ken Cozy.
All right, good evening, everyone. First, I do want to start off by thanking Jay, truly, thank you very much for helping out with everything you've done over the last year or so. I'll be honest, I wouldn't be able to get to this point without your help. Thank you. And I also want to thank you and Lori for being gracious hosts and opening up your home to us, and hopefully we don't leave too much of a mess for you. But thank you all very much. And I want to thank all of you. I know you have a lot on your calendars, a lot of different things, pulling everyone in different directions, but I appreciate you taking the time to come here and spend it with us. First of all, just looking out here, I'm looking at so many different groups of individuals here as to where you are the community leaders of not just this community, but the communities that surround it. And to me, that's really a testament as to the strength of the immediate Joliet area. And I know we have this throughout our chapter. So my goal is to kind of go little by little throughout and strengthen the Red Cross throughout the chapter into its communities by ingraining us a little bit more each and every day into the community. I want to strengthen our current relationships. I'm looking to build new relationships. And that includes our community partners, our nonprofits, our government agencies, and also with the residents. We have 1.1 million residents that reside within a chapter. That's a huge undertaking, and that's something we can't do alone. So we're definitely looking to partner with other organizations and folks like yourselves. I am very proud to be here to represent the American Red Cross of what is currently known as the Southwest Suburbs. Yes, that is a name that we are looking to change, and we'll go into that a little bit more. But I have a personal relationship with the Red Cross in terms of I started off as a volunteer myself for many years on the disaster side, came in on staff working in disaster, and now I have this pleasure of working from this end, is where I get to meet whole new groups of people to move us forward. One thing I have learned is how many people have a connection with Red Cross. Some of you might not think you have a connection, but you do. If you have ever donated blood, or maybe you have received blood from Red Cross, or maybe we have helped you or someone that you know that has been affected by disaster, whether it be some of the recent floods or tornadoes, or as Fran was mentioning, it could even be a local home fire. That is what we respond to the most here. But even those that are not connected with Red Cross, the one thing that they recognize is they recognize the brand. They recognize the logo. And what that means to many people is that is hope, and that help is there for when it's needed. This chapter, we respond to approximately 110 local events, which would be usually home fires, the vast majority of those, 110 events a year. That is something I am looking to increase. I'm not asking for more disasters. We're starting to work with the community and build those relationships so when there is a disaster, for us to be notified. We want to be able to respond and to help everyone that's out there. Whether they may or may not need us at that point, I want them to know that if tomorrow or next week they need help, they know who to go to. Our service is delivered truly by our volunteers. Volunteers create well over 90% of our workforce. Those of us in the chapter, or even at region level, we're very small in paid staff. It is truly with the work of the volunteers that get us through and allow us to do the services that we provide. Again, looking to increase our volunteer staff. I feel, collectively, we feel that we have about 50% of what we need in terms of volunteers to really be efficient and effective to get these services and programs out. Our volunteers, not only do they respond to fires, but they also, they teach CPR, AED. They work different community events. They do everything. Volunteers are everything. Without them, we wouldn't be who we are today. One of the things I definitely want to touch upon is our numbers over the last year. You guys have this. If you don't have it now, please make sure you grab it on the way out because my information's on it. But is our statistics. So I'm not really big on stats for a meeting such as this, but this is kind of our baseline over what we call our last fiscal year, which runs from June to July. So this is what we're basing future endeavors and goals on. So this is a quick snapshot. Last year, we helped almost 2,500 individuals that have been affected by disaster. Fortunately, in the last fiscal year, we didn't have a major disaster, if I remember correctly, but nonetheless, we're still looking at fires and localized flooding, things of that nature. Almost 6,800 meals were provided and 4,500 relief items. Those relief items could be something as simple as a toothbrush or toothpaste, or it could be a blanket, clothing, or anything else that someone may need. Blood is something that just astounds me. We're looking at almost 12,000 units of blood that we collected last year. Think of it this way. Each unit of blood that's collected could save up to 3 lives. So we're looking at almost 36,000 lives that could potentially be saved by the blood that has been collected. Definitely looking to increase this number. Training and CPR, AED, things of that nature are a little over 11,000. Emergency communications with military families. When our military, active military, for instance, when they're deployed, whether it's at a base here in the U.S. or overseas or on a ship, something happens at home, we're the link between the family and that military family. If that military officer has to come home for whatever reason, we're that link to try and get them to where they need to go so they could be with their family. 214 reunifications. That's across all of northern Illinois. Of all of our 21 counties, like I said, 250 volunteers, which I'm looking to double in the years to come. And our apps. So last year we had about 3,500 apps downloaded. The big thing with the apps, though, is this is one way of building more resilient communities. This is truly preparedness for individuals. We have tornado apps, flood apps. There's a blood app, so you don't miss a blood appointment or you find the nearest one. There's monster apps, which helps teach kids about preparedness. There's a plethora of them, and they're extremely important. Last night, when the storms were coming, from Iowa into Illinois, lights going off, thunderstorm warning, tornado watch. And it gives people just that extra time that they may need to get to safety. So this is definitely something very powerful. One of the other things, just to kind of put things a little bit more local here for Will County, since most folks are from Will County, is our disaster response. So last year, our everyday type of events of home fires, we responded to about 45 home fires last year. So that's about 3 to 4 months, somewhere in there.
That's within this new chapter area.
Within Will County alone, it's 45. And we're on the same path this year. We're still averaging about 3 to 4 fires. And again, about 90+% of those are done by our volunteers. The key to this is when we go out, when the volunteers are out there in the field, whether it's 2 in the afternoon, 2 in the morning, or whenever, we're able to provide that financial assistance that's needed right away, because that's going to do several things. It's going to get these residents into a safe place for them to be with their family, and it's also that first step to help them with recovery. They're able to make the decisions. Hey, where am I going to stay tonight? Let me make a choice. Let me get the clothes I need. Let me get the food I need. It's extremely important. Like I said, we want to up that number. We don't want more incidents. They're kind of counterintuitive of what we're trying to do with home fire and everything else, the campaign. But again, we really want to make sure that we get out there and we're a little bit more in tune with it. Oops. So, basically, in the end, really what I'm finding out quickly is without the help of the community leaders, such as yourselves, we're not going to be able to get to where we need to get to nearly as fast, if at all. So I am reaching, thanks to Jay and everyone else, we're reaching out to all of you for your help. I'm hoping to sit down with many of you, hoping to build our relationships, and just see what is that next step as we move forward. So I thank you again for being here this evening, and I look forward to speaking with you from here on out afterwards. Thank you. Jay? What a chirp here.
Well, I'm gonna vary a little bit from the next part of the program, which is the town hall part, because I heard Ken talk about the Red Cross apps, and I want to give you a personal experience that I've had just in the last several months. We all know of the problems, the terrible tornadoes that went through Coal City. Okay. That night, it was a Monday night. My wife Lori and I were upstairs. Hello, Ted. My wife Lori and I were upstairs, and I have 4 apps, Red Cross apps on my phone. Okay, one is for first aid, and by the way, that's pretty good, in that if you're with somebody and they start bleeding or they have this problem or that problem, you can, this is made to be looked at very quickly to come up with a solution to it, if there is a solution. We've got a first aid app. I've got a hurricane app because we have a home in Florida. I have a pet first aid app because we have some pets. But what I want to tell you about is I have a tornado app. And the night of the tornadoes in Coal City, which isn't that far from here, this thing went off and a siren went off. And right after the siren, it said tornado, tornado, tornado. Lori said, "What does that mean?" I said, "That means we're going to the basement real quick." And we went down to the basement and we found out, shortly thereafter that there was some tornadoes. This is not a tornado watch. I mean, this is when this thing goes off when it's there, okay, and when it's close by. So we found out later that there's been a horrendous amount of damage in Coal City. More recently, I was out at a dinner with somebody, and same thing happened, went off. Siren, tornado, tornado, tornado. And I wasn't right in the Joliet area. And somebody says, "What does that mean?" I says, "That means that somewhere near my home in Joliet, they've spotted a tornado." And afterwards, I found that there was a tornado that touched down in Frankfurt. So what I would like to suggest to you, it doesn't cost you a penny. Go to the Red Cross website. What is it? redcross.org. And download as many apps as you want, but especially that tornado app, because that could save your life. All right. That wasn't planned, but I wanted to tell you about that. Okay. Now, there are several things. This is, again, a town hall meeting. There's several things that we're hoping some of you have some suggestions for. One is we need to have a facility that we want in Joliet or the immediate area. We don't have one lined out yet. We don't know for certain yet how many square feet we are going to need. The Red Cross, the people in Washington are doing a study of different areas, including our new chapter, to determine, okay, what services we're going to have, and just, a range of how many square feet we're going to need. So what we're trying to do right now is get some suggestions from anybody that may have them as far as locations. Could be as small as maybe 2,000 square feet, as large as 6,000 or 7,000 square feet. The Red Cross would prefer not to buy something. We would prefer to rent on the cheap. So we're hoping that, at least in some cases, people, given that it's a Red Cross, will rent us a facility very, very reasonably. And the other thing is that it has to be within a reasonable distance to an entrance and exit from either I-55 or I-80. Because if you take a look at what we have right here, our area, this is I-55, this is I-80. If we're somewhere down here, we're going to have a problem getting over to there very quickly. So that's what we're looking for. So let me just ask, does anyone have any ideas, any suggestions as to any buildings you're aware of or any locations that we should consider? Yeah, Mike.
Have you checked the Rock Run Business Park?
No, we haven't checked anything. We're just kind of getting started now, Mike.
It's close to where you are, and there's some vacancies over there.
All right, it's a good idea. Hopefully they're folks that would give us the right kind of price on it. I think Rock Run Business Park people own the electric company too. Okay, yes.
The downtown area might be something to consider. It's at the crossroads of 55 and 80. You've got a train station there, and it's very accessible. The only problem are those bridges, but 80 and 55 being that close, and I'm sure There's a lot of space down there, very negotiable right now.
Well, I think what we'd have to look at, and I'm going to write it down, your suggestion down, but you know, we're going to have some vehicles too. And downtown area for the most part is buildings, whether they're occupied or unoccupied. And we really need something with some adjacent space for vehicles and parking. So I'll note that. Other ideas, Ted?
Well, I told you I have a building for sale, and you invited me to this meeting. The building is on Hamus between Jefferson and Glenwood, right behind St. Joe's Hospital there. It's a 3,900 square feet upstairs. It's got a basement, a full basement. Part of it's got a staff lounge down there. The parking lot is probably a little less than an acre of land, so there's a lot of available parking for you. It's accessible very easily to the hospital, and again, it is accessible to 80 and 55 too. I mean, you know, it's right there. So it's available. I'd rather sell it than to lease it, but if I have to lease it, I'd lease it.
All right, well, thank you, Ted, and I've noted that down here too, and your square footage, and we'll keep that in mind. Does anyone else have any ideas? Any ideas as far as locations?
Can I ask just one question, Jay?
Sure.
How much parking do you need? Because that's really important.
Fran, what would you guess?
Ken's
Ken?
going to be able to answer better than me.
So currently, and we're looking to grow our fleet, because right now we'll have about 3 vehicles permanent for our chapter, several trailers, but I'm also looking at the fact of volunteers coming in, blood donations coming in, things of that. You know, if I'm ballparking, I'm looking at about 15 to 20 spots.
And Ken, how big is the biggest vehicle that we have for this area right now?
It's a box truck,
Box truck.
26-foot box truck.
So that's really.
So we're definitely, again, knock on wood, but, you know, when a disaster does hit, when the whole city hit, we moved our emergency operations center out to Romeoville. So now we're just inundated with, you know, 5,800 vehicles. So, I mean, we understand when we the perfect kind of thing, but definitely need space. Parking is very important.
How much staff are you going to have there full-time?
Well, staff fluctuates because we have our chapter staff, you know, we're looking at about 6 to 8, but it varies because of our regional staff. In healthy days, we'll have 15, 20 people in the building without issue, and then we'll go down to execute next day.
Other ideas? Yeah, Mike?
The other location would be 4780 in Morris. I mean, if you look at your map, that'd be right in the center of the park.
Yeah, now 47 and 80, I've gone through there frequently. Is there a business park there or something, or
I don't know about the shopping plaza, that's just to the south.
would be like southwest or southeast of the intersection?
Southwest.
That right next to it.
I mean, I'm not sure about the vacancy.
All right. Thank you. Yes, Jan?
What about the old Silver Cross Hospital?
Well,
Consider?
actually, several years ago, I was over there representing the Red Cross and looked at the various buildings. This is when they were still, before they built the new one, or before the new one was open yet, and was looking at the facilities. And the only thing that appeared to work would have been, you know, across from the hospital, they have it used to belong to the railroad, the EJ&E Railroad building. And the the hospital was using the lower level of the building at that time, I think for accounting. And they showed us the upper level. And basically the president of the hospital, in effect, said, if we fixed it up, we could probably have it like very, very, very inexpensive. And I told him that sounded to me like $1 a year. But as we looked a little further into that, and they didn't. Then the hospital folks decided that they really didn't want to do anything on the upstairs. The problem that we would have had, it would have been very expensive to renovate because there was no elevator going to the second floor. There was an elevator shaft, but there wasn't an elevator. I don't believe there was any air conditioning on the second floor, and frankly, it hadn't been maintained. And that, about that time is what, as Fran was saying, when the economy turned south and the Red Cross decided not to do anything for a period of several years. But that might be a possibility in the future. I don't know. Does anybody know the status of that building now that they moved the hospital? Yeah, Jan.
Well, up until last year, they were using that whole downstairs still as business offices. Now, all the folks that were there are now back at the hospital in Lenox. So it might be worth looking into again. I don't know what the status is, but that's my update I can give you.
Thank you, Jan. And really that first floor would have been great for us, actually. We don't need an elevator. I think they have handicapped access, if I'm not mistaken. And it's finished. I mean, we may have to remodel it, move a few walls, but it would be. All right, thanks. Other ideas, suggestions, questions? Okay. Next subject. As has been indicated to you, this new chapter is 6 counties: Kankakee, Will, Kendall, Grundy, LaSalle, and Putnam County. By the way, if anybody knows anybody in Putnam County, we'd like to get a board member from Putnam County too. But I'm really concentrating more on LaSalle, where more people live. But we need a name for this chapter. You may have heard tonight something about Red Cross of the Southwest Suburbs. That's only a working name. And in fact, we don't really want to use that name because it implies, when it says Southwest Suburbs, it implies that it's all suburbs of Chicago. And people in Kankakee don't like to think they're suburbs of Chicago. Grundy County definitely don't.
Well, County doesn't either.
Yeah. And LaSalle County, they hate everybody in Chicago. So what we need to do is we need to come up with a name for this chapter. And I know I'm just springing this on you right now, and nobody's really thought about it, but does anybody have any brainstorms as far as what we might want to consider naming this chapter? Yeah, Steve.
Could you drop the word suburbs, change it around, and just call it the Southwestern Red Cross?
We could. American Red Cross of the Southwest. Okay?
I didn't think of the word American, so.
Okay. Okay. Ted.
Back 30 years ago, 40 years ago, we had in the medical society the Quad River Foundation, Quad River. Now, the medical society is composed of Grundy and Will County, but when we meant by Quad River, the rivers that go through this area, the Fox River, the Des Plaines River, the Page River, and we named it that. That went out of business, but the names we could use, I'm sure, is the Quad River Red Cross.
The Quad River chapter. Yes, that's a very good idea. Very good idea, and I've got it noted here. Other suggestions? You folks should have had more to drink before we started tonight. If you did, we'd have a lot more suggestions. Yeah, Nick.
How about Black Hawk chapter?
Black Hawk chapter.
Chicago.
You're thinking of the Indian. Everybody else would be thinking of the hockey team.
And both.
Okay. Other ideas?
Is there anything you can think of that unifies this area, that pulls in, at least say 4 of the 6 counties? Are there any nonprofits that have a similar territory that have a name that captures the area?
Three rivers, but it's more than that, though. To Doc's point, he was calling Quad Rivers. But there are a lot of groups that have the 3 Rivers Association.
Heritage Corridor?
All right.
The 6-pack
Okay, other ideas?
I think Starved Rock is a unifying natural attraction in all 6 counties.
So you're thinking that, like the Starved Rock chapter?
It doesn't have a metropolitan connotation.
No, but. Okay, well, let's see if there's something.
Don't overlook the canal.
Let me note it. Other ideas? Yeah.
I don't know if this, but we hear so much about Route 66. Does it go through all of those?
No, well, Route 66 runs more or less in certain places near I-55, but doesn't go through all of the counties, but Route 66 is, I mean, it's a popular, real popular name. We're thinking of the Route 66 chapter or something?
I was thinking of President St. Joe's, I was just at their gala underneath.
Well, okay, so are half the people in this room, but. Route
But it is
66.
something we're kind of proud of in this area, you know.
Yeah, yes.
I just like the second I and Get Out chapter, I really liked it.
Well, you didn't have, well, nobody suggested it, so you're first.
Somebody did a minute ago.
Yes.
Six County Red Cross.
Red Cross, okay, American Red Cross of the 6 counties. Okay, that's a good idea. Others? Oh, okay, well, I would encourage everybody to, since, when we're done with the meeting, you don't have to leave right away. I would encourage everybody to have another drink or two. And, yeah, we'll all be around here. We'll all be around here. Now, let me ask this, another thing here. Services needed in the community. And this is something that that was on the thing that I got from the Red Cross to ask. I mean, obviously, disaster relief is what the Red Cross is known for. Blood collection is what the Red Cross is known for. But there are a lot of other things that the Red Cross does. And rather than for me to list the other things the Red Cross does, let me ask any thoughts on services to the community? And we have people here from first responders, police department. We have people here from the media. We have people here from the hospital. We have people here from the corporate world and others. Other than disaster response and blood collection, is there some specific services that you can think of that the Red Cross should provide in this area? Yes.
Teaching people to swim.
Okay. Okay. Other suggestions? Yes.
This may sound like an odd question, but as a person in the community, I'm familiar with the Red Cross because of military life. But basically, if I had a disaster, I wouldn't even know how to reach them. Do people know that the Red Cross is available to them? Or maybe they do know and I just don't know about it. So I guess that's probably what I'm asking is, does the Red Cross have enough community communication for people to even know they're here?
Well, and that's something that Ken is going to be working on. Generally, it's not the people that call the Red Cross. If it's something like a house fire, it would be the fire department or the police department that would contact the Red Cross. Obviously, if there are disasters, what the situation was in Coal City, and if I make a mistake, Ken, please correct me, is that the Red Cross was monitoring. I mean, they knew that that the possibility of tornadoes was coming in long before they got here. And they were monitoring it, and they were planning, okay, if there are tornadoes, what are we going to do? Well, what happened? Then there were some tornadoes. So the Red Cross was already in action, so to speak. That was a Monday night when they had the tornadoes. Well, that night, they had opened, the Red Cross had opened a shelter in, I believe it was a Methodist church there, wasn't it? And so that night they were ready for, and they did have people come in whose homes were and the people were I guess you might say steered to the church, I believe, by the first responders. So there's a few ways. I mean, you can always call a Red Cross, but calling the Red Cross is not calling the police or the fire department. Generally, what the Red Cross would like is the first responders to contact the Red Cross, and then we can respond appropriately.
And to go along with what Jay's saying, and that's part of, like, so one of my goals is, or the goal is to really ingrain ourselves more into these communities. And I think just by being more ingrained, residents are going to begin to know what to do. Because again, if you have a fire, for instance, you may or may not know that you can't call Red Cross for services. And I think it's just going to kind of be a natural process to get the word out there. Because, again, like I said, 3-4 days down the road, you may just know. If you don't know the call Red Cross, there's a problem. So I think it's really going to be part of the natural progress moving forward with getting more trainings and things of that nature.
And that really is Ken's most important job here. He's got a lot of important duties, but to establish relationships with the emergency management departments of each county, with the fire departments, with the police departments, so they know who to call when they do. And I might add too, with our recent Coal City fires, or Coal City tornadoes, they happened on a Monday night. As I said, the Red Cross opened a shelter that night because it was planning for it as a contingency. I went down there on Friday, several days later, and the day I was down there, the Red Cross had 96 people working. Now, of course, there were a lot of other volunteers. Some people in this room I know went down and volunteered to help clean the streets and do things such as that, and that was wonderful of you to do so. But the Red Cross volunteers, for the most part, are trained people that know what to do when they get there. So that's why the Red Cross had the shelter open. That's why the Red Cross was running a facility in the church there where people could drop off donations of food, of different things, and the people who had their homes destroyed could come in and pick them up. The Red Cross knew what to do and set it up. We also had another facility there in another church. And Ken, what was the name? That's where we had the other affiliated groups there. What was the name of that facility?
Goldmark. It's a multi-agency resource center.
Yeah. And what we did there, what the Red Cross did there, is they set up, it was in I guess you might say, a large room in another church. And what would happen is someone whose home was destroyed or damaged or needed help and didn't know where to go would go here to the Red Cross multi-center. And I was there. They would walk in the door, and there's some tables, and they would be interviewed by a Red Cross volunteer. And the volunteer would basically say, okay, what happened? What do you need? And at that point, the volunteer would send the people to one of the agencies that was behind them in the room. And there was, how many agencies were there? There were like 50 or 60 at one time, wasn't there?
There's about 25. There's
25. Okay. So some of these agencies were governmental agencies. Some of them were private charities. But the point is if you had your home destroyed or it was damaged and you just didn't know what to do, you could come into here, be interviewed by a Red Cross volunteer, and then be referred right in the same building to somebody that could help you with your specific situation. Well, that's why having trained Red Cross volunteers are important. So anyway, all right, back to the services offered. Yeah, Ted.
Jay, if you have a disaster where there may be lives injured, you need to have physicians in it. I don't know how well coordinated you are. I was recently the president of the County Medical Society, and to my knowledge, we never had a relationship with Red Cross. But I can tell you, back when we had the tornado that hit Plainfield, it was, I think, on Tuesday, and we were not aware of a tornado, and the tornado just passed our building by a block. The hospital sent out their security force to all the clinics and offices around the hospital and asked that we would shut our offices and come in to assist them because there was no doctors available. And we did. If that tornado hit on a Saturday or a Sunday, the hospital would not be able to take care of it because there wouldn't be any physicians around. The problem that we have here in Joliet probably 60 to 70% of the physicians on staff of both hospitals do not live in the service area. They live up in Hinsdale, Oak Brook, in that area. And that's a real concern. And one of the reasons they don't want to come to Joliet is the living standards here. Wives don't like the schools, what have you. What I'm saying is we have to turn around and engage both the nurses and the physicians somehow. And you have to network. If you network, it makes it stronger, makes Red Cross more visible, and we can respond in a timely manner. Because, as you know, in any kind of natural disaster, the sooner we get to the patient and take care of them, stabilize them, the better the success is. And I think that should be something that be entertained. And I don't know if there is any type of relationship with the State Medical Society, but it may be something that we should talk to in the county medical societies and have them engaged. Now, I know probably the hospital has the medical staff, but there's, we've got to have a bigger audience. And we have to have people be ready to respond when it does occur. And we got to have a coordinated type of response.
That's a very good point, Fran.
Just a couple of things that are in place now that you might want to think about. First of all, this is not physician services, but it's helping the hospital. We have a program in this area called Patient Connection, and basically what happens is that when 10 or more people are transported to multiple hospitals from a mass casualty incident of some sort, the Red Cross has becomes the front-end reception center, a virtual reception center for the emergency department and for the families who are looking for loved ones. So rather than having to go from emergency department to emergency department, you call the Red Cross. And then we are getting information from the hospitals about who's been admitted to their hospitals, and that way it offloads some of the demands on the hospitals so the folks in the hospital can focus on patient care. A couple of other things that we do is if we have a shelter open, we don't have physicians on staff, but we do have nurses on staff and we have mental health counselors on staff. So I'm sure you know, in the emergency department, people who don't need to be there, but who are frightened and stressed out may show up in an emergency department looking for care while there are other people who are in greater need. So by opening these shelters, we can do basic first aid. We can prescribe medicines, and we have the mental health counselors that can help people cope. So it's not exactly the same kinds of services that you offer, but what we can do is take the worried well or the people who've got some lighter needs, offload them so you can focus on the people who have greater needs.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying there. I know when Plainfield, a number of our physicians went out to Plainfield right away.
Yeah.
And they walked through the rubble out there and they offered first aid right away before they got the patients to the hospital to save their life. So it's something to consider, but it also becomes another place of networking, which will help Red Cross in the community here.
Well, and what you're speaking to is also, it's the people who are trained in first aid, and the more people who are trained in first aid, the more that just everyday citizens, and we train in first aid, we'd love to have more people trained, can come to People's Aid as Good Samaritans. In the Boston Marathon, the people who were the first responders were volunteers who were just happened to be in the audience, who went to the aid of the runners. Many of them were actually Red Cross volunteers because we man a lot of the first aid tents at the Boston Marathon. But it is people who are empowered to save people's lives, whether it's CPR or AED or first aid.
My concern is, though, you don't have to have them out in the field, but also the other concern is at the hospital level, they have enough physicians that are available to take care of the patients coming in. And how do you notify them, and how do you get them to come there? There's no sense in doing anything if there's no physicians there and if they don't want to come in. If they live in Oak Brook and they're sitting on their back patio having martinis, do you think they're going to move to come to Joliet? Plus, the other problem that exists here is if you have something like a tornado, you may not have roads available to get patients in here because they may be blocked with power lines and trees.
I wonder if this is more of a FEMA or Homeland Security coordination issue than an American Red Cross coordination issue. I don't know that it's them necessarily, but maybe more overarching.
We work very closely with government on disasters, and we have our roles. We have our role to play in disasters, and
Well, Ted makes a good point, though, and I think maybe our contacts with the hospitals in town are something to follow up with. Mike, you were gonna?
Jay, even if the doctors don't want to come here, I'm glad that the Red Cross wants to.
The Red Cross goes everywhere.
That's all they do, and again, you don't need a commercial for me, but it's, as former chief of police, it's probably the most wonderful organization you can have to deal with when you need someone right away, when you have a fire, you have a tornado, you have a natural disaster. That being said, I think Ken has followed me. We go meeting to meeting. I see him everywhere. Two new guys in the area, so we're making our rounds. But what I found out, and I think what Ken's going to do is much what you're talking about. Get out there and let the people know what you do. Like, I had no idea until you spoke of your pillowcase program. Wonderful educational program for kids. Prepare kids for disasters. Get into our schools. That's what I recommend. Do these programs for the kids. And that's how you'll win this town over in a hurry.
Programs for kids in schools. That's a good suggestion. Mike.
The other thing, and Fran and I talked about this before, and she brought up regarding prevention, is a teen fire stoppers program. That whole prevention is so critical.
Fire stoppers. Now that's the program with the smoke alarms, correct?
Right. And even more than that, because then you do assessments in the home, and you would meet with families and do evacuation planning. And you can overlay to see where the fires
That's part of it, yeah,
occur.
when we go to the house.
I think that's part of what we already have planned, isn't it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, Nick?
Two things. One is, I know the health department in Will County has had to cut back quite a bit because of the loss in state funds, and have to cut back even more if they don't get them soon. And some of those outreach services that they do, it sounds like they dovetail with what Red Cross provides. So it's something that, maybe working with the health department. The other, from a media standpoint, though, is that I noticed during Coal City is that it seemed like there were a lot of people heading down there to help out, to the point where that's enough, and I think it would be good so we're not bothering the fire people or the emergency people. If there's a person we can call down there, or they can call us and say, okay, we've got enough people for right now, tell them we might need them for the weekend. Here's what we need. We need clothes, we need water, we need food, we need whatever. And we can get that out right away.
Well, that's something good for our relationships with the media, some of which are in this room. If we can contact the media and they can put the word out right away, this is what's needed. And I kind of heard the same thing you do. I think there was a lot of very good-hearted people that went down to Coal City to help, and that was wonderful of them. But you only need so many people. The difference is really with the Red Cross, our people are all trained, and that's what makes us different. When you think of the Red Cross, if the Red Cross in a major disaster, if the Red Cross isn't there, there is no plan B. There's no fallback. Sure, you have your first responders, police, fire, but they're overwhelmed with things. You have maybe your county emergency people, but how many are they? Really, in a major disaster, if there is no Red Cross, there is no plan B, which is why there needs to be a Red Cross.
Just kind of go on it real quick. This really shows the importance of us building these relationships with our community partners. Again, we're there, we're forced, we have our roles, but we can't do everything. We don't do everything. We're great at what we do, but we don't do everything. So that's why it's really important for us to build our relationships through our nonprofits and our government agencies. And I will say, Coal City, I hate to say it, we kind of had a run a year and a half earlier with the folks in Diamond and their tornado. So this is our second go around with this group. And it was just amazing as to how well we did work together, and we were able to formulate plans moving forward. So that's, again, something we're looking to do throughout the chapter.
Okay, anybody? Jan?
I have a question. How do you recruit volunteers for the Red Cross?
Ken, how do you recruit volunteers for the Red Cross?
Great question.
And we have a sheet right outside, Jan.
I have an idea. I don't know if it's been tapped into yet.
You might have Marie Katulis, who's back in the corner, is in our Romeoville office, and she's from our volunteer services group, who's responsible for volunteer recruitment. So Marie, you wanted to just talk a little bit about that?
Sure. We will recruit anywhere and everywhere, and we are developing programs to get out in the community and do more recruitment, although we have had a community presence program in place for probably 2 to 3 years now. That program is being fine-tuned to get the staff and the volunteers out into the community and recruit from any resource that is given to us.
So they'll go to events, for example, if you know, they're going to evaluate an event. If you've got a health fair or a
volunteer
community
fairs.
fair, there's a toy fair happening just before Thanksgiving that's up in the Rosemont area. So just as an example, they called us and said, "You want a booth?" And we said, "Too short notice, but we're going to go look at it because next year we'll probably want a booth because 30,000 people come through there." So, you know, what we have to do is evaluate when there are events and activities to decide whether that's a place we want to be. We promote our website, redcross.org. You go to Volunteer Connection, that's how you sign up. We have Red Cross clubs in schools, and so some of the school-based programs are also ways to recruit volunteers.
Okay, now you said Volunteer Connection for people that want to sign up. Would you expand on that?
So Volunteer Connection is the name of the website, the name of the section of the redcross.org website that is for volunteers. So it's a great system that allows you to identify what kind of volunteer you want to be, and we've got scheduling systems, and we make it easy. The background check is all done online, so it's a very easy intake thing. So if you want to become a volunteer, you go to redcross.org, you put in there, you click a button that says, "I want to volunteer," you put in your zip code, and that will take you to Volunteer Connection.
Jan, what did you have in mind?
Well, I'm thinking, do you have a link on all the county and city websites?
Oh, that's a good idea. Probably.
I'm sure we don't, but
Because government people who are here, can we put?
Well, that's what I'm talking.
you're talking to one of them.
It's actually my committee, communications committee.
Oh, great, okay.
She's on the Joliet City Council.
Wonderful.
And we're working our website, and it's sitting here occurred to me, you know, you could have a link that goes, you may be sitting at home surfing the web, you may not think American Cross Volunteer. But if you're looking into your city or your county board or what's going on in government, you know, might see volunteer, you know, American Red Cross, well, look and see what that is, you know, and then you could draw them in that way. It's just a way of, you know, having more people look at it and maybe recruit.
We do have some with some organizations, for example, Community Service Council.
Well, I'm talking about cities.
Yes,
Cities
municipalities
specifically,
now.
and their website and county board, especially with 6 counties, you
Yep.
know, they all have to have some.
Ken, you know Jan. If you don't, you need to know her right. You need to get to know her right after we're done here, and see what can be done. Okay. Any other suggestions? Okay. Yes.
In an ideal world, if there were no disasters, does the Red Cross do prevention other than fire prevention? Any other types of prevention?
Well, we have different classes. Ken, maybe you can.
We have classes, range around from, aquatic safety to, a fun program called Scrubby Bear that teaches young kids, hygiene. There's other CPR, AED type of classes. So there is a long list of those classes.
CPR classes are probably about the best, because once you learn that, 20 years from now, if somebody has a heart attack next to you, it doesn't take much to remember what it is. Other comments? Okay, well, I said it was going to be about 45 minutes, and we went 20 minutes over. But we had a really good discussion. Now, here's what I'd like to also say. If you have any suggestions for additional board members, remember, we need a couple folks from Kankakee, we need another one from Kendall, a couple from Grundy, and a couple from LaSalle counties. If you can think of anybody that kind of fits the parameters of the board members we have, the profile of them, please get in touch with me. If you know me, you know how to find me. Otherwise, you can get in touch with Ken, and he'll get in touch with me, and Ken's contact information will be on a handout that you can pick up on the way out of here. Now, if you have other ideas, not for directors, but for services, or you would want to establish a relationship with the Red Cross, especially if you're involved with a first provider, contact Ken directly. Again, there's going to be a handout with Ken's contact information on there. And the Red Cross, all I can really say is the Red Cross is very eager in our 6 counties to establish relationships with as many people as we can. So, yeah, Mike.
When is this going to be finalized to actually go forward? I mean, will you still work out of the Romeoville site until?
We will until we get a new site. What we're expecting to do, Mike, and I mean, the board, this chapter will be official later this month. Later this month. It's going to be official. It's going to be voted on by the region, and the people whose names that I read that are on the board will be officially on the board, even though we've already had a meeting. Will be officially on the board later this month. The only thing we're really waiting on for a facility is to have the higher-ups tell us about how many square feet we're going to have and what services specifically we're going to offer. We think we know, and I think that's on the handout, the different services, isn't it, Ken? Okay, but we really need to get an idea. So that's what we're doing right now in terms of facilities, just getting some ideas, which we have some good ones here this evening. And then when we find out exactly what we need, we can refer back to the list. But the chapter is going to be official in a couple of weeks, and we're moving ahead.
Can I just add to that for Mike?
Sure.
We are, as Jay mentioned, the real estate stuff is happening in the context of real estate analyses across the nation. So we had to get into the queue across the nation. It's going a little more slowly than we wanted, but we're in the queue for the second quarter of the calendar year next year. And hopefully it'll be early in the calendar year. I mean, hopefully it'll be early in the quarter.
Yep. Okay. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming, and feel free to stop by and pick up a refreshment, have a refreshment. There are still plenty of appetizers out there, and any appetizers not consumed tonight will be held for the next Red Cross in about 1 year. So feel free, and also we have some media friends here. If they have any questions of any of the participants tonight, of course, they may want to talk to. But thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Hi, we're here with Councilwoman Jan Coleman. Jan, we had the meeting tonight, town home. How'd you think it went?
Actually, I thought it was a very informative meeting. It was one long overdue, especially for the Red Cross here in all 6 counties. And a lot of ideas came out, so I think we're all going to be able to work together and get some ideas out there and get some volunteers, because you always need volunteers in a disaster. But it's the home and Mr. Lori and Jay Bergman, they're wonderful people, and to get this started like this now, it's been a long time coming. Definitely. And with all the people that are here this evening with all their ideas, it's going to be, I'm very hopeful that it'll be the best Red Cross in all the counties.
Yes. Would you be willing to do some volunteer work when the Red Cross gets going?
When I retire, because I'm on a lot of boards right now, and I don't like to be on a board when I can't give 100%. Okay. But I will certainly contribute ideas and helping.
You had a lot of great ideas tonight.
Well, you know, the app thing, not the app thing, but the link on websites to the communities, and not only the counties and cities, but you know, you can reach a lot of people out that way, because you might be looking at something on your city website or your county website and not be thinking about Red Cross, and then you'll see that little Red Cross, and they'll just link on that and say, hey, let me see what that's all about. And you know, because there's a lot of people out there that want to volunteer, but they don't know how to.
Yes.
And so it's just another way of trying to get the message out there about Red Cross and how important it is, especially in disaster. And if you've ever been the recipient of a Red Cross volunteer or aid, you would be first in line.
Yes. All right, well, thank you very much, Jan. We appreciate you. Let me introduce you tonight.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Hi, we're here with Senator Pat McGuire, and I just want to talk to you if you had any relations with the American Red Cross.
Yes, Danielle, after the Plainfield tornado, I volunteered, and I remember there was a training session held, I think it was at Labor's Local 75 Hall down on Len S. Lane in Crest Hill, and I remember a nun, a sister, said, be prepared to have difficult reactions from the people you're trying to help. She said, after all, no good deed goes unpunished. And I don't mention that in a lighthearted way. That was an important insight into the mindset of people who have just lost everything they own.
Yes, definitely. What kind of involvement will the state government have with this new American Red Cross coming to Joliet?
Well, state government, Illinois government, with its strained resources, needs organizations like nonprofit organizations like the Red Cross more than ever. So I'm glad to hear that the Red Cross is reorganizing in part of the area I represent in order to do a better job. They already do a great job, but to do an even better job at delivering services to people in need. I was particularly struck by the mention that the single disaster the Red Cross responds to most often is our home fires. My dad was a fireman.
Wow. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you letting me interview you tonight.
My pleasure.
Hi, we're here with Al Rochner. I just wanted to ask you, Al, about how you feel about American Red Cross coming to Joliet.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for the area. Anytime we've had any house fires or disasters in the area, our dispatch calls them, and they're there right away. I mean, they're there a lot of times quicker than the board up service showed up on scene, and they've helped numerous families throughout the city. Actually, back in 1984, our house burned down, and the American Red Cross helped us out with lodging and stuff like that. So I know how great an organization it is. So
Everyone has some type of involvement with American Red Cross. They say it.
Yeah, and I work with also our mobile field force. So we were in Richmond Park for the tornadoes and other disasters, and they were there. They even fed our law enforcement officers who were out on the scene for hours and hours. So they're just a great addition to the area. I mean, we couldn't ask for anything better.
All right, definitely. Well, thank you for letting me interview you. I really appreciate it. Hi, we're here with Ken Cozy from American Red Cross. Ken, tonight was really informational. Loved the meeting. It was very, like I said, informational. Is there anything you could tell us about tonight?
Yeah, this is a great event. I mean, it's very important for us as an organization to get together with all the community leaders, as many as possible. That's really the only way we're going to be successful, is by working with the community leaders and to help us get ingrained within the communities, whether it's through networking or just trying to find out what does a certain community need. We heard here tonight that there's a need for certain types of services, such as preparedness. Someone mentioned Pillowcase, which is a program of ours where we go into schools or park districts or scouts, and we work with 2nd to 5th graders and teach them a bit about preparedness. And there's also mention about the home fire preparedness campaign. Reducing the entry and deaths caused by fires over the next several years. And this is us working with our communities, our fire departments, and our government emergency management agencies, and with all the other nonprofits, rallying together and physically installing smoke alarms into people's homes.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it'll be really exciting to get this going and get the building up and running. And I thank you very much for letting me interview you. All right, I just want to say thank you, Jay and Lori, for letting us come to your house tonight. This meeting was very informational. If you guys just want to make any closing statements, I'd appreciate it.
Well, sure. It's with the American Red Cross. We've made a lot of friends tonight. We've connected with a lot of the first responders within the 6-county area of the new chapter, and it's been a very successful meeting.
Definitely.
And as I said during the meeting, AmericanRedCross.org, and you can get some free apps for your cell phones.
All right, great.
Just want to thank everybody who came tonight, and we're looking forward to this new chapter and helping our community.
All right, thank you very much.